Hi, my name is Karina Harney, Playboy's Playmate of the Year, 1992.
And I'm Echo Johnson, Miss January, 1993. Welcome to the Bunny Chronicles. Let's go. Today we have David Mecey!
One of our and we were just talking about how David Mecey started in 1980 as a staff photographer. And his very first...
I thought he was a janitor at the building.
Yes, he was a janitor, and he found a girl in the bathroom. and he said, can I take your photos? Yeah, it almost went in another direction.
No.
Yeah.
So 24 years, 22 years, 24 years, David.
About 24.
Yeah.
I started actually freelancing for the magazine in the late 70s, 1977, 78.
And you had an injury, right?
I'm sorry?
You had an injury that pulled you out of the game.
What's very interesting, and I'll throw this in here as a little bit of trivia, the reason I got into photography was actually due to my doctor. In 1972, I was in a really bad motorcycle crash, and I couldn't walk for nearly a year.
Right.
And the doctor who was treating my injury on my leg, my ankle, was an amateur photographer, and I was an artist before I was a photographer.
Right.
So I was bringing in my artwork and showing him every month when I'd go in for my checkup. So one month he said to me, you should buy a camera instead of making people sit for you to draw them. Okay. So after I was able to walk again, I bought a camera, started teaching myself photography. Well, let's go forward now to current time. I'm going back to Texas in just a couple of weeks for my high school reunion.
Oh, how fun.
And that same doctor that got me to get into photography is still alive.
Oh, you have to go see him.
I'm going to see him. We've been
How
talking
wonderful.
via email, and I'm going to see him. His name is Dr. Hilliard, and it's amazing. I mean, full circle.
He must have been a young doctor too back then.
He was probably in his early 30s at the time. I think he said now he's in his late 80s, maybe early 90s, and he's still alive. And he's not practicing any longer, but I mean, he's still alive.
And he pointed you in the whole direction.
I mean, talk about God's divine intervention, that occurs.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so for me to be able to go back and see him and thank him, I'm taking him a book of my work.
Nice.
He doesn't know this, of course. I'm taking a book of my work.
We're going to send him this.
I'm gonna take him to dinner. I mean, whatever. I mean, I can't wait to see the man. We've been talking via emails. It's just amazing.
He is who put you on the path. And Echo and I have talked about this over and over again. It gives me goosebumps that I think a lot of people that ended up in the Playboy family, it's a story like that. It's like being set on a path.
And I mean, and think about this, David. I mean, as strange as it is, had you not had that accident, who knows if you actually would have ended up working full time with Playboy.
Some of the most legendary photos from him.
Yeah. And now there's another little bit of trivia. Let's go forward to late 1979. I'm in Dallas. I'm freelancing for Playboy at the time, and Jeff had wanted me to go to Dallas to an auto Show where there were 5 Playmates, one of whom was Dorothy Stratton. Yes. And so I was just freelancing, and I was taking photos of the girls signing up on a table. They took a break, went back to the green room, and I was invited to go back with them. Now, I had not met any of the Playmates at the time. So I go in, and I'm like the shy young guy, and I'm over across the room from where all the girls are, and they're all laughing and going, and I'm not making this up. Dorothy looks over and sees me and smiles. And I'm like, oh my God, that's Dorothy Stratton. And she was already Playmate of the Year, I believe.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, I'm sitting there on the floor, and she starts walking toward me, and I'm freaking out. Oh my God, that's Dorothy Stratton. She's coming to me. What am I going to say? So I stand up, she comes over and she goes, hi, I'm Dorothy. What's your name? And I go, David. And she goes, and she said, do you work for the newspaper? And I go, no, I'm here for Jeff Cohen. Oh, I love Jeff. Da, da, la, la, la. She goes, so you work for the magazine? I go, well, I'm freelancing. She goes, and this is what she said, honestly. She goes, welcome to the Playboy family. And she goes, girls, come over and meet David.
I mean,
and they all come over and met me and talked with me. It was amazing. And that was another moment that really sort of set my goals to continue to work for the magazine.
Right,
She was
right.
so sweet, so
Everyone-
nice.
She was
Everyone
top-notch.
said
she
that
was
about
absolutely amazing.
her.
You know, actually, it's interesting
Genuine.
that you are telling us this story, because I had thought about this and then I forgot about it, but until I brought it up. We need to do a show on Dorothy Stratton and who she was as a reference point, and we could play it before David's interview.
Okay.
That would be, or do it before
Okay,
David's
yeah.
interview. That would be
That
really
must have been
interesting.
even more
Yeah.
devastating, her having touched your life, because she did. I mean, she
And
obviously
then it was
affected
the
you.
next,
Yeah.
only a few months later that she was gone.
That travesty. Ugh, such a
I mean, it was
tragedy.
just
What was
awful.
that
And
like when you heard the news? It's surreal.
it
It's
was
so
surreal.
gruesome and
Yeah,
brutal.
it was unbelievable. And I just because I had met her only months prior, and she was so sweet to me and made me feel welcome to Playboy.
Mhm.
And so for me to hear this, I was just like, how could that happen? And
Man.
so yeah, I mean, I was in Chicago at the time, I think, and it was just, everybody was devastated. I mean, it was like a very strange time when that all went down, and it lingered.
I guess,
nightmare.
yeah, absolute nightmare. And I guess we could just kind of do a quick little bit on who Dorothy Stratton was for viewers that are watching this and may not know. So Dorothy Stratton was Playmate of the Year in 1980, right?
Mhm.
And she was just adored and loved by everybody, and obviously, and she became Playmate of the Year, and she had this really atrocious man that she was with, and he ended up murdering her and then killed himself. So it was a murder-suicide, and just right when she was just barely taking off, and it was just the end of a beautiful young life. So, but we'll do more on that.
And there have been movies made about it.
The Star 80,
yeah.
that movie was with Eric
and
Roberts.
so I mean, it was, and they continue to talk about it to this day at
For
times.
sure.
I mean, and the sad thing is that the media, being as the media, they continue to come up and try to dredge up all the bad stuff,
Right, of
instead
course.
of talking about all the positive things she was and who she was. And she was an amazing person, obviously, because I mean, I was blown away by the fact that she literally walked across the room to me and introduced herself to me and made me feel so comfortable and welcomed.
Mhm.
And it was just like, I would have never gone over to them.
And she
I
really was a rising star. She was one of
she
those
would have been
that
huge.
was ready to hit, in movies. And
she was
and
the
it was
epitome of the girl next door, like 100%, and just sweet and kind as can be from, everybody that we hear that from. So, wow.
Yeah, that was the thing. She had no attitude. She was completely real.
And she was just back from filming, and she'd fallen in love.
Who was the director?
The director
was and what's his name? He's a big director.
You guys, we do this every time. We do this every time, and I'll know right when we leave. It's like when we couldn't
someone on your staff probably
Malkovich, not Malkovich.
No.
We'll have to look it up.
We'll know. We'll remember.
You want me I can Google it.
Google it, and we're all gonna laugh that we can't think of his name. He's such an incredible filmmaker. He's still a legendary human being.
And then he went on to marry Dorothy's sister.
Yeah, and he loved her. I'm sure they both. How horrible. But he loved her and she loved him.
Yeah.
You would just, I don't know.
Okay, I got it.
Who?
Peter Bogdanovich.
Yes, Bogdanovich.
Peter
What did I
Bogdanovich.
say? Something, bitch. Something, bitch.
You're like, I knew I had the last.
Peter Bogdanovich, yes.
Wow.
And she had just come back from filming, and they had fallen in love, and she had just outgrown this kind of creepy guy. She was so innocent, she didn't even see his creep factor until the world opened up to her.
Yeah. It was Hef that really pointed it out, actually. I mean,
I know. I heard about that.
You know why?
Always a good judge of character.
You know why? Like not men, but like boyfriends and husbands were not typically allowed at the mansion because of Dorothy Stratton and her.
Because of jealousy. Because jealousy is an evil thing.
Well, it was just Hef could tell that he was a bad person.
Yes.
Like Hef knew, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, get away from him.
Yeah.
That he was a scumbag. So anyway.
She was,
okay, so let's go back to you and at Playboy and Chicago specifically. So were you shooting Centerfolds, or you were
when I first started out, I was shooting pictorials for the magazine.
Okay.
The girls of whatever, also along with David Chan, I was shooting the college girl pictorials each year. Each fall, there would be a college girl pictorial, the girls of the Southeast Conference,
Right, I
the
remember
girls
that.
of the Pac-10, all those. Every year there was a different conference. And I was working on those with him. And then I was also doing solo pictorials. My first one being, I think it was the women of Braniff or the women of Maubelle. And then it continued from there to where I was doing Girls of Texas, the Girls of Alaska, and the Women of Wall Street. So it just kept going, going, going. And then in 1983, was it? 80, I did a gatefold of Susie Schott.
Now you have to explain what a
Gatefold,
gatefold is, because people are not
Oh, I'm
know
sorry.
what that means.
But they
We
still
do.
called it.
Yeah.
Yes, they still called it.
That's what it was officially being called back then. It was called a gatefold because it would swing out like a gate in the magazine.
The centerfold.
But
yeah.
everybody thinks of it these days as a centerfold. That was the centerfold girl. Well, anyway, I used to, when I first moved to Chicago, I used to go to a place on Rush Street called PS Chicago. Rush, I think it was at Russian State. Anyway, it was called PS Chicago. It was kind of a bar restaurant.
Right.
So this really cute waitress walked up to me, and again, I just started, and I was just like hyper. Yeah, I was going to find Playmates, and I did find a lot of them, by the way. So, and she comes up to me, and I go, "Oh, I just kept watching, and she kept over, and she was adorable." And I go, "Look, here's my business card. I work at Playboy, which is just down the street from here. I think you're a Playmate."
Likely story, she probably thought.
I know.
She's like,
And-
right.
But I had an official card that it did
That
say
gives me a
staphylographer on it.
question, not to jump ahead, but how many Playmates did you discover before you even started shooting the centerfold?
One, actually, Kim MacArthur.
Oh, wow.
I found Kim MacArthur, and she was my first find in Texas. While I was still living in Texas, I found Kim MacArthur.
Aw.
And so anyway, then it was her. And then, so I told her, I said, "Look, don't call me, call this number. It's the magazine. Tell them that you met me and that David Mecey would like you to come in and talk about testing for Playmate." And she was just kind of blown away, like, "What?" And I'm like, "This is for real. I promise. Call the number." A couple of days later, she walks into the offices up on the 11th floor at the Chicago office. She comes down the hallway, and I see her. She comes right to my office, sits down, and she goes, "Well, tell me about this." And I'm like, "Well, this is what you have to do, la, 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 la." And I introduced her to Gary and everybody, and they said, "Yeah, she's really cute. Let's test her." I did her Playmate test at a house not far from the like a red, what do they call them? Redstone?
Brownstones.
Brownstones. And it was really cute. And I did this pose of her at a table, sitting against like a desk with pencil things and all this. Light coming in a window. So that was the shot that they decided they wanted me to recreate in a centerfold. So I did my first 8x10 with her. Now, get this. I had never shot with an 8x10 view camera before. I had no idea what it was about or anything.
Yeah,
now,
that's right. That
all the other
8x10
guys
camera is like next
all the other
level.
guys had gone to like freaking colleges and went to
But
these,
you
like,
understand
art
light,
school.
David. People study the light and the way you paint the light in your photos.
But this was anyway.
You just had it though. You saw that. You have
So
that or you don't.
So what I did was I got my assistants to meet me over the weekend, and we set up the 8x10, and I practiced how to use it. And I'm not kidding.
Right.
So that on Monday morning, when I had to do her first shoot, I was ready to go.
Wow.
But now there's better. I had no diffusion on the lens. So when the first film came back, it was sharp as a tack. And when they looked at it, they looked at it and said, "David, this doesn't look like Playboy. It's too sharp." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. You know how to make it, you know how to make it look like that, right?" I go, "Oh yeah, sure." I had no idea. So I go back
opportunity.
So I go back to my office, and I'm sitting there all concerned and everything. And so Pompeo was in the office next to me. Remember Pompeo Posar?
Oh gosh.
He was one of the, he was with the magazine.
He is, yeah.
He had already started, he was already with the magazine. He was already kind of older then when I went to work for them in my 20s. So he comes to my office, he sits down, and he goes,
maybe quickly tell our viewers and our listeners who Pompeo is, just so they know.
Yeah. Pompeo started with Playboy, God, in the late 50s, or was it the early
He
60s?
was with them, one of the longest. Yes, he's one of the
Yes.
longest Playboy
And I-
photographers. Absolutely. His
So
images.
he was like already a legend at the
Mhm.
magazine. And then
Sure.
Richard Fegley came along, was in the Chicago office. And to
That's
me,
my
honestly,
man. Aw, I
those were my
miss
two
Richard.
those were my two favorite photographers, and also my kind of my icons, and who I wanted to emulate, who I wanted to be wanted to try to be as good as them. I knew I
Aw,
wouldn't
you
be,
hear
but I
that,
wanted
Richard?
to try.
Aw.
Yeah. And in fact, I will say this, that I, to this day, shoot similar to Richard's way of doing things, which was kind of all over the place. And that's the way I've always lit, all over the place.
And
but anyway,
he's who shot me, and I'll never forget, just because you know, we don't get to interview him, but I loved him so much. And I was a baby. So when I even though I was in Las Vegas, I was a Chicago girl, you know. I flew into Chicago to test with Richard, and he said, "Get me a teddy bear." He was so funny because I really was. I was 18. I was just out of high school. I had my friendship bracelets still on, and he made a joke about it. He goes, "Go get me a teddy bear. Give her a teddy bear." But he was wonderful. We became family. But yes, I mean, I understand what. Anyway, I'm grateful that I got to shoot with him. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for mentioning him. Yeah.
I have to grab something, though. This is very important. I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah. It is sad that Richard can't, you know, he was legendary.
Yeah.
I am grateful that I got
I
to
never
shoot
met
with him. I'm grateful I got to shoot with David.
Right.
You shot with David?
Oh yeah, I've shot with David.
Yeah.
A lot.
See, I was one of the only ones because I was
Playmate photos are from David.
Yeah, and I always wished that I had, but I am grateful, especially with Richard not being here. But anyway, because I'm still going to shoot with David. I'm ready. I want to shoot with David Mecey. Uh-oh.
Wait, we lost your audio.
We lost your audio.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Are you plugged in, though? Because you sound... No.
No?
This is perfect. This is going to be our best episode.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Can we?
Can you hear me now?
Nope. What happened?
Now can you hear me?
Yes. Very loud and clear.
Okay, so here's what happened. So I'm in the studio, and I'm standing there pondering, what the heck am I going to do about this softness, this diffusion, when in walks Pompeo. And he walks up to me, and he has something in his hand. And he goes, "I hear that you're not diffusing your 8x10. We have to diffuse it. It's way too sharp." And he goes, "I get this material in Paris, and I really like you, David, and I want you to be successful." And he gave this to me, and this is the actual.
Oh my God!
I just got
so
goosebumps.
Cool.
I always get goosebumps.
This is the material that I used on my centerfold shots from that day forward.
I love it, David. How neat!
And I've kept it ever since. And I have goosebumps talking about this because it was so special to me. He was like, that was something no photographer would ever do for anybody, because that was like the secret. That's the secret sauce.
It's like him passing on his baton to you. That's like passing the legend, handing off the baton. Now,
pretty much, yes, that's what it was.
It does make me curious. What's one of your favorite images that he did of maybe a famous person that
Well, it was a centerfold that he did, and I'm trying to remember her name, but she was with a jukebox, I think it was, or something. That he did a centerfold of her, and I loved it. But he did so many. But
now that we're on the topic of film, obviously Playboy used real film. That's what we shot with, and now everything's digital. And I know that you shoot digital too. But what's your preference?
Oh God,
is that a hard one?
I would, if the world were to go upside down and digital would go away suddenly, I would be one of the few people in the world that would be one of the most famous
that knows how to work with film.
Because you know what you're doing.
Film and learned on film.
Right.
Wow.
But because it's pretty much everybody's shooting everything now, and the cameras are so good, and they pretty much can just shoot whatever's in a room.
And it's easier. All of the post is so much.
There's so much
works
post that can
for
be
you.
done.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
Back in
because
those days,
people
it
don't
had to
realize.
be in
I'm
everything
sorry.
had to be captured in camera, and the 8x10 saw everything.
Yeah, I
So
imagine.
so this is what makes it so special for me to have worked for the magazine. There was the Dorothy Stratton story, the
Yeah.
Pompeo Posar story, the story with Richard. I sent you, I think, a Polaroid of Richard and I.
Yeah, we're actually going to put that up.
Okay, I sent
Yeah.
that because that was very special. I thought Richard was like a lighting god, and I wanted to be like him so much. I mean, I adored Pompeo.
Try
but
being on a
Richard's-
raft with him in Jamaica.
I'm
Naked.
sure it's a lot
Done
of
that.
fun.
Try being in a waterfall with a bed in the waterfall and him.
Seriously?
Oh, yes. He stuck a bed in a Dunn's River Falls.
Oh, yeah, I
I
shot there.
remember that everyone was yelling at him, Richard, you're going to kill us. You're going to kill her. She's going to go down. And I was right with him. I worked with them because I was like, loving this. But anyway,
so
I thought you
different.
might get a kick out of that, loving him like you do, because I'm telling you, we had a bed in a waterfall, and he went and found a bed in Jamaica, an old frame bed, and this
That's awesome.
flowing down the waterfall. And yes, he was so meticulous, and he knew what he wanted, and he would not take no for an answer. I mean, he made everybody step back. Okay, she might die, but we're getting this shot.
One of the small camera photos I sent you of Susie shot was Dunn's River Falls.
Wow.
I shot there.
Oh,
That
really?
just gave me
how
goosebumps
funny. I know
again.
exactly what
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
I went there and
There
shot
goes my
Susie
headphones.
there.
Hold on.
Wow, David.
So anyway, there was all this kind of intertwining kind of thing with everybody, and then and the other.
Here we go.
That's okay.
No apologies necessary. We're here.
Since you were in the Chicago office, did you work with like Hef much or get to have much encounters?
Not really.
Encounters with him?
Not really, because not until I went actually out to LA did I have any real encounters with him, other than the time he came to Chicago in the 80s unannounced and walked into the studio, and while I was shooting a Centerfold, by the way.
Wow, that's such a cool what?
And
Yes.
I think I sent the photo to you last time.
Yep, that's the
And
one
he
when
walks
he's looking down.
And he
That
has
was
the
your
Pepsi.
first time that you met Hef. The
Absolutely
very
it
first
was.
time you met.
Were you like, oh
God.
my God?
Well, yeah. I mean, what happened was I was shooting it, and then all of a sudden the model, who was facing this way behind, I was facing her. She's like, mouth comes up, and I go,
I bet.
"What are you doing?" And she's just like seeing a ghost, right? I'm
Aw.
like, and I turn, and it's him and his assistant walking toward me. I'm like, shit, that's Hef. And I'm like, Mr. Hefner, how are you? He goes, hi, I'm Hef. Hi, sir, I'm David Mecey. He goes, shooting a gatefold, I see. And I go, yes, sir. And he goes, well, do you have something you can show me? I'm like, yeah, I have a Polaroid. And I
Right
take him over to
here.
the table. And that's when they were looking at it. And he's got his Pepsi can. And he's like, oh, this is a nice start. And I go, thank you, sir. And anyway, that was it. That was how I met
That's
him.
wild. I mean, talk about like a unique experience, because that never occurred probably ever to
You're like,
anybody
there's-
except you.
There's the
It
boss.
was like
The boss.
bizarre.
So
He's
that-
real.
That's an awesome
He's
Hef
real.
story. He really is real. I
He's
swear.
real.
I
There he
saw
is.
him. He walked
No.
in the studio.
Thank goodness.
Was he wearing his
photographer-
bathrobe? Did he have his pipe?
And so thank goodness his photographers shot it, and I ended up somehow getting a copy of it. Thankfully, they were nice enough to give me a copy
Yeah,
of it.
such a great photo.
Yeah, I mean,
awesome.
otherwise, if I told that story, people are like, yeah, sure he
I
did.
know,
Right.
right? They're like, so
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
David.
So we're gonna ask some standard questions. Do you have any like standout memories of like photo shoots with Playmates, or like events with
Oh, God.
Playmates, or anything in particular?
Well, I mean, they're I have to say hundreds. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, every photo shoot that I went on, it was like a new adventure for me. I was like, God, I started in my 20s, and I was just, it was like, it was surreal. I mean,
I bet.
and I always thought of myself, honest to goodness, as just a photographer. I never thought of myself as a Playboy photographer. I never
Really?
blew that up or anything. Yeah, because well, for one thing, the standards were so high.
Yeah.
I was always just under stress, thinking, "Oh shit, am I going to?"
It was work. It's work.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't screw this shoot up. I've got, I got to be on my game. and it was every time I went out to do a photo shoot, be it at the studio, be it out on location somewhere in the world. And it was always in the back of my mind, because you have to realize this too. Playboy never did reshoots. We never did reshoots. So when we were sent to do a pictorial, you did it. You came back with finished product, beautiful images of every woman you photographed, or it was
next. It was done.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
and that's one of the things that, I mean, that's what all of the guests say is like the caliber of work that Hef expected and would demand
Bar
out
none.
of everybody. But he also was an expert in terms of putting the people in the right positions where he knew that they
spared
meet
no
his
expense,
demands, but spared no expense to get that.
But that's why he knew if this doesn't work, there's a reason why.
Yep.
When I went and tested in Chicago, it was an interesting thing. It was a beautiful set. And it was just my test photo, but they were doing a Playmate pictorial. And it was, I mean, I had never seen such an elaborate set. I've done movies now, and I have yet. Do you hear the sirens? They're coming to get us. I have yet to see. Sets as elaborate and as beautiful and so well lit, and every detail. Well, a girl wasn't working on this bicycle. It was a bicycle as if it was in a French cafe. I mean, it looked like it was a bicycle in front of a French cafe in Paris, and it was beautiful.
A sunny day. And it
yes,
looked like
and the poor girl that they were shooting, didn't work. And it was something
how hard would that hurt if you got denied?
And so then they said, you know what, instead of tearing it down, we'll just use it for the test shoot. And that was my test shoot was on the bicycle that the poor girl didn't work out.
Would you say, and I'm sure the answer is going to be yes to this, but working for Playboy the amount of years that you did, and this is actually an interesting factoid. So everybody that we've interviewed thus far, and this just speaks volumes to the company and to Hugh Hefner as a man and as a boss, mentor, whatever you want to call him, your ability to produce what you produce now at this era in your life and this career that you have been in now for 3 decades?
Yeah, 4 decades.
If it was not for Playboy, do you expect that your work would be as classic and on point as it is?
No. I think that Playboy was my university and my, I guess you'd call it doctoral in photography that I received while going there and working for that magazine.
Right.
It was one of those things where you had to step up. And I had to go above and beyond where my ability was when I first started to work for the magazine. And I knew that. And I would come in. And one of the reasons I got hired was when Playboy brought me to Chicago in early 1980 and put me up at the Drake for a month. And that's
where we would always stay.
Yes,
at the Drake.
Or the Knickerbocker. I got to stay at the Knickerbocker.
and so I was there all that time. So not only did I go to the office every day, on the weekends I would go in and practice my lighting. And they saw that and they realized that this guy really wants this. And that's when I got asked to come to work for him. So and that was one of the things and I never took it for granted. I never took any photo shoot for granted.
And that must feel so. It's such a testimony to your work and your work ethic, because he did.
Your work ethic.
Absolutely. For sure. It was loyalty and it was perfection. Everybody who we have spoken to thus far says the same thing, that Hef brought them to a level they didn't even know was inside of them. That's been fascinating to hear.
I mean, we were literally just saying right now when we were getting our hair and makeup done that just having the professional Playboy makeup artist on hand, the difference that it makes on us for us to show up to set. And then when we have done other, jobs, gigs, whatever, it's just like nothing compares.
Sadly.
And again, it's just the caliber of when you work for and with Playboy, you're the best of the best.
Yes.
It just is.
Yes.
And that was the thing that a lot of people, when I would travel, they would ask me, well, first off, when I would travel, everybody would say to me, you're not anything like I thought you'd be. Because I was
Right.
like super nice and sweet. I was like a sweet guy. I was raised that way.
You're a Southern boy.
I was a Southern boy. And so when they would meet me, they're like, oh, you're not wearing gold chains and, open shirt and all this kind of stuff.
Funny. People have those funny ideas.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm just a regular guy. I just happen to be a pretty decent photographer. And they're like, yeah, but that's like, Jesus, that's not what we thought you were going to be. But that's what made us also different from everybody else. We were not the perception. We were way beyond the perception. Right. And that's why we were so successful at photographing women without their clothes on and making them feel comfortable while doing so. Right. And that's what made the magazine great. And that's something that I am hoping to try to continue, by the way. And I'm going to throw this little plug out there.
Oh, no, please do.
I wouldn't even say hoping. I would say
please plug whatever you're doing.
It's going to be.
David Mecey, tell us about everything your legendary self is doing.
Spill the beans, honey.
Tell the world what David
I'm
Mecey
working on
is bringing.
Something that I don't want to say what it is exactly because I don't want to jinx it. But it would be something that would involve my photography, which I think right now is at the pinnacle. It's the best I've ever done, to be honest.
Wow.
I'm way
the
above
girls
where I
just
was.
aren't as good because they're not Playmates.
They're just not.
I'm just totally kidding. I'm kidding to anyone who is shot with him. I don't want anything.
But I'm going to be finding girls that are of that equivalency. Believe me. Well, you see the girls that I photograph that I post on Facebook?
Beautiful.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean,
so I still have that ability to find that quality.
Yes, yeah.
And to work with them. So I'm hoping to maybe somewhere down the road be able to assemble something and do something that's going to be my legacy beyond being a Playboy photographer, maybe something else. And that's all I can say for now.
Okay. When this thing comes out, you will be coming back on the show to
yes, I will.
We know what it is, and I'm totally confident it's going to be a home run.
Well, we're excited for you, David, and for everything that you're doing. We really are.
So we have, we like to wrap up our interview with 2 questions for everybody.
Okay.
You go first.
Well, the 2 questions are,
so it's 3 words that describe. And
3.
Then
yes,
if you were able to say anything.
So 3 words that describe Hef. First of all, and then we're going to ask you to say anything that you could have said to him in his, in memoriam or to his face before he passed.
Before he passed?
Yeah.
Well, you did read
the opportunity.
You read my obit that I posted on Facebook, right? When he did pass in 2017, where I said Playboy was Hef and Hef was Playboy. That's what I wrote. And that's what I would have said to him.
And it absolutely, yes.
Is true.
No other person could ever fill his shoes,
and the 3 words would probably be ultimate entrepreneur. That's 2 words, sorry.
That's fine.
Brilliant.
Yes.
And, the 3rd one, brilliant. And just a mega star among all the publishing people it's ever been.
Yeah.
I think people, especially the media, has kind of taken him too lightly and or looked at only on the dark side of things and tried to bring out the dark side of things.
That's what media does, and that's why we're doing this.
This is exactly why we're doing this, David. Because for someone to make it, and I'm a capitalist, sorry, but when someone makes it to that level and builds an empire
from nothing,
Correct.
from an idea, and also helps shape some wonderful things in American
society
history,
and culture as we know
who's
it today.
Truly an icon, one of the few icons of American history. From the 50s on.
How can you not?
How can you just act like he was no big deal and cancel you know,
well, I'm sorry that
Who
weird,
actually-
is not
weird
going to apply.
lifestyle
No.
or whatever people are saying.
Yeah, this
Hey,
cancel culture bullshit. No, it
you
does
know,
not apply. This is
freedom
history. This is
and-
history. This is facts. This is what occurred. This is who he was.
Yes.
This is what he did.
So that's what we're
and if
doing.
you have a problem with it, then go on or actually learn about it and learn something that's actually fascinating.
Yes,
You know?
He
instead
was
of
also,
forming.
he also was
Yeah.
instrumental in breaking down the racial barrier.
Absolutely.
He had black entertainers at all the Playboy clubs
Yeah.
before anybody.
when it was real
Such an
segregation,
advocate.
Oh,
real
yeah, it was
racism,
unbelievable.
like horrible black
He was
water
just an
fountain,
advocate
white.
for human rights, period.
And not
Whether it
only
was,
when
like,
women
civil
were
rights,
not being
equal
paid
rights,
what
yeah.
men were
Yeah.
being paid, not only would he put women, but black women in
Mhm.
positions
Mhm.
that
BJ,
it
remember
was.
BJ?
Oh yes, I love BJ. Oh,
I mean,
BJ.
I know.
Yeah.
God bless you. We wish you were here. Mwah.
Yeah,
I mean, he had
race relations.
women in the the upper echelons of all the different parts of Playboy's company. Everything from the advertising to
Yeah.
publicity to
To
editorial.
butleresses at the mansion.
class act,
Yeah.
hands down. Well, he didn't look. And the way we
yeah.
should be as human beings, he didn't
Yeah.
look at color. He didn't look at the times. He was
No.
ahead of his time, and it
Right.
seems that for the most part, he was on the right side of history.
Absolutely.
And I don't know why people aren't looking at that with Hugh Hefner, the man, because really he was. And the more we find out, you hear of, you know, he would never go around tooting his own horn about any philanthropy he was doing.
No,
he
was so humble.
He would never say, and everyone who we've spoken to, he would never say, I did this.
No,
I had Sammy Davis Jr. when no one would have him. And he wouldn't say those things because it was just right. And he saw talent and he saw skill. And he didn't do that as a statement. He didn't say, oh, I'm going to hire women and black women. No, if he saw someone with talent, like we were saying, puts the right people on the team is why he had such a very powerful living, breathing brand and empire.
It's the people that
absolutely.
were
Because he
behind
did
it,
the
yeah.
right thing when it came to, he didn't look at what everyone else was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I love it.
It was a time when this was not even expected to happen,
Right.
and he did it, and it blew up. And so, he basically helped change the world in a way. And they're now, I think they're wanting to bring him down a little bit. They're trying to knock him down, and like they do everybody. I mean, Jesus,
Oh yeah.
if I do what I want to do, God help me, please don't let them try to do that to me. But you know they will. But I mean, I'm fine with it. I'm at an age where I don't really care.
Yeah, none of us do anymore.
I just want to do something. I know there's a lot of old Playboy readers out there that would love to see a little bit of classic Playboy come back.
Mhm.
So
Well, I hope that we have
No.
tons of listeners that hear this and
That's
would
the-
like a taste of that. So
That's what we're here to do, people. Teach you
yes,
a little
we are.
Playboy history.
Yes, we are.
yes.
Well,
Preach
David,
on.
thank you so very much for
Aw.
coming on the show
Thank
again.
you,
And,
David.
You're
And,
welcome.
as
You're
soon-
welcome. I love it.
And you
I do.
sound great.
Yeah.
And
Well, thank you so much.
So you'll be back on the show for sure.
Yes.
We're gonna head into interviewing some Playmates.
Oh, anybody I know?
Barbara
Moore,
Moore and
Brandon
Oh, tell
Carrie
Barbara hi. Tell
Stevens.
Barbara hi. I want to photograph Barbara too. I hear she looks great.
She
Uh,
does,
Yeah.
but we don't, so we're not going
Yeah,
to be
you
taking
do.
photos with you. No, Barbara, I'm going to be talking to Barbara. Yeah, she's gorgeous.
So Carrie
We love
Stevens,
her.
Barbara Moore, Renee Tennyson, and Brandy.
Tell Renee hi. Tell Renee hi too.
We will.
Is Rosie going to be with her? Her
No.
sister?
Uh-uh.
No.
No,
I
she's
photographed Rosie a ton.
Oh.
Who else? Anybody else I know?
No,
Well,
that was-
not
that was
today, not today, but
yeah.
but yes, we'll have more Playmate of the Year roundtables, Playmate roundtables. We're having a ball with this.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome.
yes.
Well, tell everybody I said hello.
We
and
We love you so
will.
much.
We
Thank you
love
so much
you,
for joining. We'll
David.
talk soon.
you guys take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.